Welcome to the Innovation Squadcast, making a positive difference in learning through innovation.
Welcome to the Innovation Squadcast, and thanks for making us a part of your educational PD journey. First-time listeners, welcome. And for our returning listeners, welcome back. We're so glad you're here. Today, we are so excited to have Eric Curts with us. And before we get into introductions, I'm Pam Hubler.
And I'm Eileen Fernandez-Parker.
Okay, and we're Innovative Learning Coordinators in Berkeley County. And Eric, I don't think you really need an introduction because you're amazing, but can you tell us a little bit about you?
Well, hey, now I feel pressure. Well, hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be learning with you guys. So, hi, my name is Eric Curts. I'm an ed tech coach, tech integration specialist in Northeast Ohio. Just finished my 33rd year, heading into year 34. I was a middle school math teacher and then moved into this role as a tech coach or a tech integration specialist, and have been doing that most recently at a regional service center in Ohio. We have ESCs, Educational Service Centers. That's where I work at, and I support about 40 school districts in my day job there. And then on the side, I run a website called Control Alt Achieve. And I travel the country, actually travel the world, working with schools and organizations and conferences, doing workshops and keynotes and trainings, and of course, sharing everything through my website at Control Alt Achieve. Most of my focus nowadays is on AI, but I have done a lot with accessibility, a lot with Google tools, a lot with creative use of technology in the classroom over the many years. So that's me.
And your resources are great, right, Eileen?
They are
And both of us
amazing.
have seen you in person at conferences. We've met many times.
Yeah, we're fangirls.
Yeah.
No,
Sorry.
no, I don't have fans. I have friends. Everybody has to be my friend, because that's the thing. You know, I want to learn from everybody as well. And I always say, well, I can't learn from a fan. I learn from a friend. You know, I want to learn from you guys as well. So, yeah.
All right. Well, today we're going to go, we dive into Chromebook accessibility tools, and we might touch on some AI because our students do have access to Magic School AI through student rooms.
Oh yeah.
So if you want to go ahead and start with whatever accessibility tools you think we'd want to start with.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think probably the best thing to begin with is I'm just going to point people to some resources so that, because we're not going to go through all of this, we're just going to hit a few highlights, but so you know, you can access all of this stuff later on. There's a link you see on the screen there, bit.ly/Curts-CV access for Chromebook accessibility tools. That link will take you to a document that looks like this, and everything that I cover related to Chromebooks and accessibility tools is in that document. There's, about, I don't know, 5 pages worth of resources and examples and things, and you can dive in and explore any of those later on. Also on page 2 of that document, I have some additional things such as a 1-hour recorded webinar. So if you want to go deeper into it, but actually hear me talking about it, of course, the slideshow is in there as well as some other resources. I've got one that's more general. That's not just Chromebooks. Here's one that's just Google tools to support all learners. So it's like not just on a Chromebook, but all kinds of accessibility tools, as well as one that does a deep dive into Chromebooks and tools to support English language learners. So there's a lot of stuff there. But what I think I would like to do is start by talking about the built-in. I'm going to skip forward here a bit to get up to there. I'm going to talk about the built-in accessibility features of Chromebooks. My goodness, Google has put so many nice things just built in. You don't have to install these things. It's not an extension. It's not an add-on. It's just part of the Chromebook. However, you do need to know where to find them, and sometimes that's the trick. Now, when I go down to the bottom right corner of my screen and I click on my system menu, system tray, whatever you want to call that, down there in the bottom right, I have a nice box that says accessibility, where I can get to all of these wonderful accessibility tools. If you don't see that, if you said, I clicked down there, Eric, and I didn't see that, that's the first thing I want to mention really quick, is that is something you do need to turn on. And so in your settings under accessibility, there's a little switch you can flip that says show accessibility options and quick settings. I'm just saying, if that's not turned on, be sure to turn that on. It can also be turned on by your tech administrators. So it's possible that it's already auto-enabled through the school district. Having said that, once you've done that, ta-da! Now you can go to accessibility and get to all these great tools. So what are some of the ones in there? Oh my gosh, there's so many, but I'll just mention a couple that are some of my favorites in there that I would encourage everybody, students, teachers, anybody. I use these tools. These are great. So when I head on down here and I go to my accessibility section, you'll see there's a wide range of these. We're not going to go through all of them. Some of my favorites in here would be things like select to speak. That's definitely top of the list there, one of them that I really enjoy a lot. So I'm going to turn that on real quick. When I turn on select to speak, what it does is it puts a teeny little speaker down in the bottom tray here, the bottom toolbar. And anytime I click on that, I can access select to speak. So how does it work? What do you do? Well, the idea was if I was reading an article online and if I wanted to have some assistance with that, could be for so many reasons. It could be I want it read aloud to me. It could be that I want to read along with it. It could be just that I'm trying to multitask. I'm working on something and I want the Chromebook to read. I've done that, have it read me an article while I'm working on something else. It really is as simple as coming down, clicking on select to speak, and then coming up and just dragging a box around the thing you want read aloud. Now, I don't have the audio coming through, so you're not going to hear anything here. I'm just going to demonstrate and show you what it looks like. But if I were to select this, now, again, I don't believe you're hearing that audio, but I am. So I'm going to pause that so I don't get confused as I'm trying to speak and hear at the same time. But basically, yeah, it just reads it aloud, and you can change the speed, and you can jump forward and backwards, and you can change the voice if you go into the advanced settings. But it's fantastic. So if you can select it, it can read it aloud for you, which is really nice. So that's one of my favorites in there. Another one would be the other direction. Instead of text to speech, it would be speech to text, and that's the dictation option. So again, if I come down to my accessibility tools and I turn on dictation, it puts a little microphone down on the bottom toolbar there. So if I was filling out a Google form, for example, here, I'll just zoom in a little bit on this form so we can see it a little bit better. If I were to click in this box, I can now just click on the little microphone down at the bottom here for dictation. Now that I have clicked on the microphone, anything that I say will automatically be typed into the Google form. And there you go. Simple as that. So if you got a blinking cursor anywhere, you can just use that dictation tool and speak to it. Again, could be helpful in a lot of situations. Could be for a student who doesn't feel they're the best typist, and they're getting frustrated because they've got a lot to get typed up and it's taking too long. So they're making their sentences shorter and their words simpler. Well, we don't want that. We want students to get all of their ideas out. So this is a great way to support that. But it also could just be maybe you hurt your hand. I broke my arm a couple of months ago, and I was down to one hand, and I was not a very fast typist with one hand. So I used exactly these tools, and I spoke. If you got an email from me, I probably was dictating it using these sort of tools. So anyway, that's another one of my favorites in there. Something else that I would point out, I mean, there's so many here. I like the docked magnifier as well. This is a nice one where basically it magnifies the screen by splitting the screen into two pieces. I'll demonstrate this one for you really quick. Basically, if I come in here to accessibility and I turn on the docked magnifier, you'll see that the bottom of the screen stays the traditional resolution where the top of the screen is zoomed in. So this allows me to be able to easily see if I need to glance up at the top and see what I'm highlighting over, which is really nice. Of course, you can adjust, where that split is, and you can adjust how much of a zoom it is and all of that. Now, I won't demonstrate all of these, but I will just mention a couple, and I'll turn that back off now. I'll mention a couple others that are some of my favorites in that list. So let's see, what else do we have in the list that I would give a shout out to? Automatic clicks. This is a nice one if for any reason somebody has a difficult time depressing the button on their mouse or using the trackpad. You just hover over links and it clicks for you automatically. The on-screen keyboard, great if you prefer to use that rather than a physical keyboard. It even includes an option for handwriting. You can just handwrite on it and it will transcribe what you write. Large mouse cursor, that's always nice, so you can find your mouse. The sticky keys feature, that's a nice one if a student has a difficult time holding down the Control, Shift, or Alt key while pressing others. If you double tap on any of those keys, it'll keep them depressed until you click them again, making it easier to use multi-key combos. One of the more recent ones that got added in is called face control. Now, I'm going to, let me see if I can pull up the, got a little video of it here. And I'll just let this play sort of while I'm talking about it here. And again, so that I don't get distracted by the noise. But basically, the idea is you can use gestures from your face to control the Chromebook. And it can be all kinds of things, turning your head, looking up, looking down, closing or opening, your eyes, smiling, things like that. And you can map those different gestures to different things on the Chromebook there. All right, so those were all some of my favorites just from the accessibility menu. I'm going to branch outside of that, but let's pause there for a moment. I don't know if you guys had any questions or comments on some of the built-in accessibility tools there that, you have a favorite or a question or a comment or a thought on.
That face control, I did not know that was a thing. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Very new. Yeah. I will say it's a little difficult with a beard. Sometimes that throws it off a little bit. So hopefully not as many of our students have Grizzly Adams beards like me. Mine does throw it off a bit. It does totally fine with my eyes and turning my head, but it doesn't read my mouth quite as well, which I get that. But yeah, really nice feature there.
So you map it. So if I say, when I turn it, my head to the left, then the cursor will move left, or?
Sure thing. So what you would do is instead of just turning it on, which I won't just turn it on here, I'll go into the settings. If you go into your settings gear and you go into your accessibility settings and you find the section in there for that. Now I'm going to have to, which one is it under here? So I'm going to have to decide where we're going to find it. It could be, is it under the cursor touchpad controls? There it is. Yeah, it's under the cursor and touchpad, because basically your face is taking the place of your mouse cursor or your touchpad. So you can see face control there. I am not going to turn it on, because once I do, it's if I move my face at all, I'll start clicking on things. But you can see that as you go down, there are all of these, actions where you can say, okay, I want to go in. If I had it turned on, we could see all of these where I could say, I want to go in and adjust. If I, do this, if I smile, I want to left mouse click. If I open my mouth wide, I want to scroll. And you can go in and you can map dozens of facial gestures to pretty much whatever you want it to map
That's
to.
crazy.
That is amazing.
I'm going to have to play with
Yeah.
that. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, beyond that, there's a couple other things I would throw in the realm of accessibility tools, but they're not in that menu. So there's one called Quick Answers, which I think is really nice, but it's not in that menu. It's actually in your search settings. You have to go into your search settings in the same settings gear and turn this on. But as long as you have it turned on, what it does is anytime you right click on a word, it'll pop up a definition, a pronunciation of that word. If it's in a different language, a translation. So for example, if I was reading through this article and I came across a word that I wasn't sure about, I could simply right click on it and it pops up a definition of the word, in this case, ailments and illness, typically a minor one. And then it does have a little speaker to pronounce it if you want to say, well, how do you say that word? And that's just nice. That's great. It's just, the student is reading along and they come across something that they're not familiar with. It's nice to have that in their back pocket as a way to define some words.
I love that. It reminds me of when I was young and I would say, Mom, how do I spell this? She would say, go get the dictionary.
Yeah.
And then nobody has to do that.
Absolutely. It's just built right in. Other things I might mention real quick would be PDF annotation. I still consider this accessibility because it's basically allowing you to interact with a PDF in a way that is more accessible, so you can choose how you want to interact with it. If you have a Chromebook, you don't necessarily need an additional PDF tool. Google has added built-in annotation right into it. So basically, if I have a PDF, I can download that PDF to my Chromebook, open it up, and I get all these buttons across the top that include things like being able to type directly on it, as well as use this little annotation squiggly button here to simply write right on the PDF. So this is great for doing math problems or making a diagram or whatever the case might be. Again, built right into the Chromebook, nothing extra that you need to install for that, which is really nice. And I'm happy to demonstrate any of these, but at the same time, some of these, just for the sake of time, I might just want to get on your radar, but you guys let me know and I can demonstrate anything.
That's really helpful because
Yeah.
especially on the days where if kids are working at home
Yeah.
and they have a PDF version,
Yes.
we use Schoology as our learning management system.
Yeah.
So they get that assignment, and if it isn't an annotation assignment, then that might be something that they can open it up, just use their Chromebook, and then turn it in. So that's a fabulous one. Thank you.
And that's
Absolutely.
automatic. They don't have to download anything special. It's a part of it.
So good question. Nothing has to be downloaded. Nothing has to be turned on. Here's the real catch. It's for files, it's for PDFs that you have downloaded to the Chromebook. Now you can do some simple annotation without downloading, but to get the full annotation bar with everything, the idea is if I have a PDF, what I want to do is I want to download it. So I do want to actually save it locally to my device. Then if I go into my Files app and I go to my downloads or wherever I saved it, then when I go to open it opens it up in the native PDF tool for a Chromebook, and that's where now I see my text box where I can type in here, so I could add in my name. And then this is where I see the drawing tool, so I can, pick a color and pick a size, and I can draw on there. It even has a signature option if you want to add your signature onto things, which I've liked because it's allowed me to sign things without having to pay for an extra service there as well. So, and then at that point, you can either save it or save a copy of it, and you've got it. You can now take that PDF and do with it whatever you need to. Turn it in through your LMS system, for example.
That's awesome. And the little file icon on the bottom of the Chromebook that you have open now, that's one thing I always show kids. Hey, right click on it and pin it so that way you can get to it. Because otherwise they have a Chromebook and they're like, where's my stuff?
I agree. I mean, certainly we can go to our launcher and it's not too hard to find stuff, but yeah, I use the files so often that yes, I did at some point pin it. Now I could unpin it if I wanted, but I pinned it after I opened it so I wouldn't lose track of that. It just makes it a lot faster to get to. Awesome.
Now, since we're talking about annotations, can we skip to, I know you have some recording tools that are actually embedded, because that's another thing that, as far as questions that kids will ask, or even parents or teachers, how can kids record using their Chromebook? So, and we do have Screencastify, so that is one option.
Oh yeah, certainly.
And then there's
Great
recording
tool.
within Schoology, recording you can record too.
Nice.
What suggestions do you have?
Well, sure. We'll skip over a couple things and pop over to recording. So when it comes to a student recording themselves, I think that is such a powerful thing to be able to use their own voice to record themselves, not just speaking, but actually, working out a problem or, drawing a diagram or whatever the case might be. Well, Chromebooks have so many recording tools. What I would probably work my way up is I would start with, you can just use the camera tool. If you just want to record yourself speaking, that's totally fine. You can just pop up the camera tool. It's got a video option, record as much as you want, give your speech or whatever it is you need to do, save that and share it. But then if you want to go a little further, there's the screen capture and recorder tool, which not only is going to record your, voice and your webcam, but it's recording what's on the screen too. So if you needed to be talking about something while demonstrating it, working out a math problem or, going through a slideshow or whatever the case might be. And that you can get to just by going to your system menu in the bottom right, and you'll see there's a screen capture option right there. Most modern Chromebooks also have that same icon right on the keyboard. If you want to go even further though, you can put all of this together, and this is what I'll actually talk about real quick here, is screencast. So screencast is a culmination of everything I just mentioned plus a little bit more. Now this, again, you do not need to install it. It is an app, but it's already there. If you go to your launcher here on the left and you look for screencast, you're going to find it. There it is. There's the screencast tool right there. I'll pop it up, then I'll just minimize it out of the way. But basically the idea is it does everything we've already talked about. Record your screen or a portion of your screen, record your webcam, record your voice, but then it adds more things. It has an annotation feature. So you can draw on the screen while you're recording, and sometimes that makes sense. You may be saying, hey, take a look at this, or I want to point out this, or maybe you're recording a Google Doc because you're giving feedback. Maybe it's peer feedback for another student, and you're underlining things and circling things and pointing things out. You can annotate right on the screen. In addition to recording all of that, it generates a transcript with the entire thing. So whenever somebody goes to play it back, they'll hear your voice, see your face, see the screen, see everything, and they'll get a transcript over on the right-hand side of everything that was said, which anybody can translate if they want. There's an option to change that transcript in any language. So your voice is still in English, but there's a translation on the side for the transcript. So this is such an easy tool to use. And when you're all done, there's just a little share button you click on, and share out whatever you recorded. Again, I'll pull up one. I think I was doing one where I was talking about the Columbia Glacier receding, and I'll go ahead and here, I'll just play this real quick so you can kind of see that. Now, I know you can't hear that, but you can kind of see. I think I'm going to start drawing on the screen here in just a moment. There I go. Yep. So anyway, you can see I'm drawing on the screen there. You can see my face. If I had the audio shared, you could hear my voice. And over here on the side is where that transcript is and the option to put it into a different language. And of course, share it out just as a link. So easy to turn this in later if you're wanting to submit this. Now, this could also be a great tool for teachers. If you think about an e-learning day or something like that, where you wanted to record some asynchronous content for the students to view later. Super easy. If you have access to a Chromebook, you can record yourself, you can record the screen. It could be a slideshow, it could be, a lecture, it could be whatever, and then they can play it back, have that transcript alongside of them the entire time as well. So, yeah.
What a game changer that is.
It's so nice.
That's amazing.
And what's nice is it's built in. There's nothing to install, and it's free. And there's no limits. It's not like, well, you can only do 5 minutes or something like that. It's as much because it saves right to your drive. So you got all the storage you need there. Yeah.
Oh, do we have time to get into some extensions?
Well, I could just mention a couple real quick.
Yeah, sure. Just a couple.
Sure, absolutely. So when we're still talking about accessibility, I think we've seen that Chromebooks, they've got really good built-in accessibility. But I still think one of the most powerful features is that Google is, they play nicely with others. And so they're like, well, if there's something that you need that we haven't provided, install an extension. And so I do have a wide range of extensions that I recommend. I'm just going to mention a small handful here. If you go to that document I talked about earlier, near the bottom of that, I cover extensions, and I do have a link to a session I do just on extensions. Also, I've got a link to that support document I mentioned earlier that has dozens and dozens more extensions. And I've even broken out a few more down here at the bottom that are some of my favorites, but I'll just mention some real quick. So certainly I would give a shout out to things like Read and Write for Google Chrome. Excellent toolbar to read things aloud. That's the free version. If you do have the paid version, it includes way more other buttons that can do lots of other accessibility supports, but it's great for reading things aloud. Helper Bird. This one, what I love about it is it has Microsoft's Immersive Reader built into it, which doesn't just read things aloud. It brings up all these other features like being able to break words down into syllables, color code and label parts of speech, show pictures that go along with words so you understand them, translate words, adjust size, spacing, font, color, all of that stuff, which is really nice. Google Dictionary is a great extension, which defines words as well. If for any reason you don't have access to the quick answers, which you should, but this is a very similar type of a tool. Google Translate, wonderful extension to very easily select text and have a little pop-up that gives you a translation and a pronunciation of any text that you have selected. Beep is a great one for recording your voice. If you want to just record your voice and drop it into a document, a slideshow, a form, a Gmail, whatever it might be, it's basically just a link you're dropping in. Anybody can click the link and listen to your recordings, which can be up to 3 minutes long each, and there's no limit to how many of those you can do. Great for teachers to provide feedback, but also just great for students to be able to add their own voice to their work. Moat is also very well known for that purpose of recording your voice. Recently, though, oh my gosh, they have expanded. If you didn't know, Moat 2.0, let's call it, has really expanded what they offer. It is no longer just record your voice and drop it into things. They now have the ability to read things aloud, but not just text that you can select, but text that's inside of images. You can just draw a box around things and it'll pull the text out of images and read that aloud. It can translate. It's got a dictionary. It's got a highlighter. It's got the screen mask. It's got text prediction. It's got voice typing. All of this is part of the updated Moat extension now. So those are a handful of some of my favorites when it comes to extensions that can just add on, give you a little bit more than what the Chromebook might provide.
Thanks for those reminders, because Moat is one that I used in the past, and I don't know, maybe I started using another tool, but Beep I had never heard of, so I might have to try that
Yes.
one. That's pretty cool.
So, question about
Go ahead, please. Yes.
how long do they save for, and where are they saved?
So when it comes to Beep, good question. I'd have to poke a stick at it to remind myself, because I think sometimes there's so many of them, I get confused on which one saves where. I don't believe there's any expiration on them, but as far as where they're saved, I would have to poke a stick at that and look and see if they're getting dropped into my drive. That's where I'm assuming they are, but maybe they're not. So I don't want to say that. All I know is that Beep is very easy to use and does not have a limit on how many recordings you make, just a limit on the length of each one being 3 minutes. So good to poke a stick at that and determine exactly where those are being saved.
Good.
The free version of Moat only had, when I last used it, you could only do like 5,
I believe it's 20 now. I think it's 20 recordings a month, I believe. But you're right, that has not changed. That is correct. The free version of Moat does put a cap on how many recordings you can do. All of these features, though, these are part of the paid version of Moat. But in the past, if you're saying, well, I don't know if I want to pay for just, the ability to record my voice. Well, now you're getting so much more. It's very nicely integrated. It works extremely well. So it's definitely a much more valuable tool now if you consider looking at the Pro version.
I have to check all those things out, and I guess we're running low on time. We gotta go.
Yeah.
We could talk all day, but
know.
you have so many resources. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. And we have them linked in the show notes. And then of course the Control Alt Achieve. That's a website I've used as a resource for years now.
Yes.
So that's amazing. So really, we just want to thank everyone for tuning in, and we hope you found today's episode helpful. Don't forget to check out the show notes, because we have all the resources mentioned today, the links to Eric's podcast, or not your podcast, but you have many of those, your website, and the Innovation Squadcast PD available through Unified Talent, because our teachers can get credit for that. And stay connected. So subscribe to our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, so that way you can be the first to know about our latest episodes. And then always, we want to hear from you, because we love hearing from our teachers, and we're always excited to engage with our teachers and just our whole educational community. So thank you so much for joining us, Eric. And until next time, keep innovating.